Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 2 of Days Gone By, the review series for Gran Turismo's pretty eclectic selection of classic cars. And this series is relatively unique among my other series because of the diversity of cars that you're going to see in the series. With many of my series, by the nature of them, they feature very specific types of vehicle. That's the whole point of the series, be it saloons, hatches, supercars, etc. Whereas in this series, I've given it a much more blanket scope. So you'll see a much wider variety of vehicles. Road cars, race cars, cars from different eras, cars of different types. There'll be coupes, hatchbacks, sports cars, etc. All being gauged within the same parameters, essentially. Now, is it really fair to do that? Because comparing something like a classic Marcos to something like a Can-Am Racing Toyota 7 isn't really that fair. Well, if it was a straight-up comparison series, then no, of course that wouldn't be fair. But it's not. This is just a series discussing the classic cars and whether or not they're worth buying or worth considering, worth your time, in their own way. Not necessarily comparing them to each other, but just on their own. How do they stand up, and how do they compare to other vehicles of their type, maybe from newer years, say newer coupes, or newer hatchbacks, or newer sports cars, or even newer racing cars. And oftentimes when I do reviews, I'm always impartial, regardless of whether I like the car or not, because as far as I'm concerned you can find something good about any car, or pretty much any car. But there are certainly some reviews which it's probably fairly obvious that I enjoy doing more than others. Vehicles which naturally stand out, such as the Chaparral 2J or the Daihatsu Cross 4. Vehicles which I find it very easy to extol the virtues of because they're just naturally brilliant cars. This is one of those episodes. This episode is featuring a vehicle which I believe is one of the unsung heroes of Gran Turismo. And it's also kind of a sleeper, but not in the traditional sense, because this isn't a car which will beat supercars under any circumstances, but it's a vehicle which deserves far more consideration from people. In fact, it's almost a dark category vehicle, but I haven't included it in that series, I've included it in this one. And the vehicle in question is a classic Honda called the 1300 Coupe S. And it's an interesting car. It looks similar to some other classic coupes, such as the Mazda RX-3, etc. And it's also pretty unique. It's one of the only front-wheel drive classic cars on Gran Turismo, specifically in the coupe category. The vast majority of classic coupes on the game are rear-wheel drive, such as the classic Skylines, the Silvias, etc. So straight off the bat, this car could potentially have some very distinct advantages and disadvantages. So how does it compare to those vehicles? Well, in terms of overall spec, the problem that many classic cars experience, especially with younger potential players, is younger people don't tend to appreciate classic cars as much, in the same way that they don't appreciate classic movies, as an example, as much. Because they were of their time, and many of the things that they achieved in their time don't stand up today to scrutiny. They don't appear as impressive, such as the performance that a classic car has. Now, if you compare it to a modern car, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to sound that impressive. But for its time, that may have been an amazing car. You just don't appreciate that because you weren't around back then. And this is one of those vehicles, because on paper, it really doesn't sound that impressive. As is suggested by the name, it's powered by a 1300cc or 1.3 litre engine, and you can turbocharge that engine up to 230 horsepower, which doesn't sound that great. But for a 1.3 litre, in modern standards, that's pretty decent power. For a car of its age, that's amazing power. So, as I said about classic cars, you have to appreciate what that could do in its day. And in its day, of course, that tuning level isn't necessarily that realistic, but the fact that you can attain that on the game is actually remarkably good for a car of its age and engine size. It puts out 145 pound-feet of torque, which doesn't sound that amazing by modern standards. It's not, especially not for a sports coupe, but again, for the same time period, etc., it's not bad at all. Plus, Hondas don't typically have huge amounts of torque anyway. It only weighs in at 786 kilos, and for classic cars, this is something which people tend to take for granted. You assume that they're probably going to be lightweight, because generally they are. But this is not a small car we're talking about. It's not an overly large car either, but it's certainly no K car. It's a decent sized coupe. It's longer than a K car, taller and wider than, say, a small hot hatch. So the fact that it weighs in at only 786 kilos is actually very good. And it also puts out 293 horsepower per tonne thanks to that low weight. Now, as far as PP, it sits at 463, which is actually perfect, I would say, because if you think about it, 230 horsepower is actually a lot of power for that PP level. And the kicker, above all else about this car, which makes me love this car so much and consider that it is an unsung hero of the game, is the price. This car is so easily overlooked in the Honda dealership. You can easily pass by, and I never see people using the car. In the entire time I've been playing Gran Turismo, I don't think I've ever heard of anyone extol the virtues of the 1300 Coupe. But the fact that it costs less than 13,000 credits is frankly insane. That is ridiculously cheap, considering what you get for the money. So I would strongly recommend you give this car a try. But that's it for this episode overall. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.